Have you ever felt like something in your body is just off? You know something's not quite right, but you can't quite put your finger on it. Maybe you're eating all of the right foods, but you're still feeling bloated, foggy, just tired, struggling to get out of bed. Everything's inflamed and swollen. And no matter what you do with your diet and your nutrition, no matter how clean you eat or how less of food you eat, you still are feeling super bloated. Such a common symptom. What if I told you the foods you're eating every day, even the healthy ones, are quietly triggering your immune system and keeping you absolutely stuck? Hi, my name is Kara, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through the first and the most foundational phase of my program, the Total Wellness Restoration Program. We are going to identify and address your hidden food sensitivities in this program. So you clicked on this video to learn more. And what we're going to learn here in this video is how this is not about just cutting out foods randomly and playing the guessing game. What you're going to learn is what food sensitivities really are, how they differ from food allergies, and why they happen, and how we test for them with real science so you can get actual, real, raw data on your unique body and what's going on. We're taking out the guesswork in this program. And most importantly, how you can start the healing process, start feeling better, and eventually reintroduce these foods because this is something that can be reversed. This is not a lifetime sentence of no longer eating these particular foods. So if you've been struggling for some time now and you're looking to get to the root cause and get to actual answers and understand what's going on, you're in the right place. Let's get started. I'm going to pull up a presentation. And so today we're going to discover food sensitivities, the first step to your health and healing your gut. That is my philosophy in this program, and that is exactly what I did and how I cured my own unexplained symptoms that had been going on for many, many, many years. So first I want to just explain what is a food sensitivity and what is a food allergy. So here on the screen, I have two columns. So a food allergy, as you probably know already, it's an immediate immune response, and it can cause severe reactions such as swelling, hives, or even anaphylaxis. An example of this would be somebody who has a severe peanut allergy. It's super common. It seems even more common today than ever before. Where a food sensitivity is sneaky. It is a delayed immune response. It can trigger inflammation that can show up hours or even days later. And the type of symptoms that come along with a food sensitivity vary quite a bit. So it could be anything from bloating, digestion discomfort, brain fog, not being able to find your words when you're speaking, joint pain, joint stiffness, fatigue, all kinds of various skin issues. And the list really could go on. So for everybody, it could be something very, very specific, or it could be a combination of all of these things. So the big idea here is that allergies are immediate and obvious, whereas food sensitivities are slower, they're sneaky, and they're often chronic. Tend to be foods that a person is eating over and over again, maybe even daily, and they're not aware because it's just this constant chronic symptoms now that it's really hard to pinpoint what it is. But I will say a food sensitivity is completely addressable and completely reversible. So let's talk about why food sensitivities develop. So food sensitivities develop for many different reasons. I listed out the most common ones here on the left, but chronic stress. So being in a complete fight or flight mode for so many years in a row, like chronically, can definitely ruin the gut and disrupt the gut. Poor diet or just eating processed foods, eating a lot of takeout foods or in restaurants and things like that. Various gut infections can come in. So if you've ever had like food poisoning or something like that, that can disrupt the gut long term, even though it's a short-term bout of discomfort and sickness. It can have long-standing residual issues that contribute to gut imbalances. The overuse of medications, so anything like an antibiotic, of course, is going to disrupt your microbiome. And if you don't get a handle on it right away and you're on antibiotic over and over again repeatedly, for a period of time, if there's something going on, that can really wreak havoc and disrupt the gut. Even over-the-counter medications like your Advils, your Tylenols can also play a role in disrupting your gut and your microbiome. And then, of course, we have our foods and we have environmental toxins, all of these things coming into play. It's just where we're at right now in the world. Our air is not as clean as it once was. So especially if you're living in a city or an area where you're around a lot of smog or just environmental toxins in the air, you are probably even more at risk, unfortunately. So here's an image that really does a great job of giving you a visual of what is going on and what can happen over time. And why food sensitivities develop is we have this environment inside of our body. It's basically called the mucosal barrier. And in this bottom left corner picture here on the screen, you can see it starts up in our nasal cavity and goes down through our respiratory tract and down into the gut. And here is a blown up or an enlarged picture of the mucosal lining. So basically this could be part of the intestine here. And inside of there, you have these microvilli, these finger-like projections, and these guys are there to basically pull in nutrients and assimilate the nutrients that your body needs and wants to absorb so that you can have protein synthesis and your metabolic functions and your body can process and then digest and basically dispose of whatever it does not need. Now, this process should be happening naturally and normally, but what can happen over time is that leaky gut progression begins to happen, and it's a term that you may or may not have heard, but leaky gut is essentially your mucosal lining, this barrier. And here's that like section view of what that would look like. These are your little microvilli inside of your gut, and when these guys get broken down or flattened out because they get kind of hit, it's kind of like a war happening, and when they get hit too many times, they flatten out, and then essentially they cannot pull in the nutrients properly. But what happens even more so is that they open up. And so now all of these environmental toxins, these antigens, pathogens, any type of bad guy essentially can now flow right in and into your bloodstream. And once that happens, that is full on leaky gut. And when that happens, that's when you end up with all of these nasty symptoms. And food intolerances end up becoming an issue along with all of these other things going on because they're also now offending the system. And so your body, your immune system is going to trigger whatever specific foods for you that this is the enemy, we're at war, and we need to call in more troops, or we need to shut down this war. So on this side, a nice healthy leaky gut, these junctions of these cells should be nice and tight together so that nothing can flow through. I like these images because I think it really helps. This one might even be a little better, but so again, I already talked about this, but the biggest problem when we end up with food sensitivities is leaky gut. So in this program, I teach you essentially, we'll figure out what your food sensitivities are, and then we go through this process of healing leaky gut. So as I spoke about all of these various reasons why leaky gut happens in the first place, stress, toxins, food particles from your food sensitivities, which is what we're discussing today, could be drugs of any kind, pathogens, and organ malfunction, unfortunately. And it causes all of this inflammation and eventually breaks through that mucosal lining and comes down, and it can cause all of these issues, food intolerances, immune system issues, and at worst, when it gets to this point, an autoimmune condition. And I pulled this image off of Dr. Axe. So let's move on. So unfortunately, in like modern medicine or when you go to visit your your general practitioner, your PCP, they aren't looking, they're not considering food sensitivities when you come to them with all of these issues. And it's unfortunate because many times a lot of your chronic symptoms and ailments can be solved by following this process, because it's not just about um, removing the foods, it's about actually healing the problem behind it. That's kind of an outcome of what's really going on. Is we have a leaky gut situation and now you have food sensitivities. So what do we want to do? We want to eliminate those food sensitivities, calm down the inflammation that's going on inside of your body, let the storm clear, and then we begin healing and rebuilding your gut and your mucosal lining and removing the leaky gut situation. Sometimes we have to do further investigation and actually look into your microbiome by running a GI map, which is a stool test. And that we cover in phase 2 of the Total Wellness Restoration Program. But in phase 1, we focus solely on removing the foods, because we get that test and we find out what your foods are that you're sensitive to. And then from there, we eliminate and basically help the body detoxify and really dig into solving the root problem. So what this test measures for, the Vibrant America Food Sensitivity Panel test looks at a small sample of your blood to see how your immune system will react to certain foods. So basically, they're going to take that blood sample and they're going to expose that blood sample to all the different foods that they test for, and they're going to see basically how your immune system reacts to it. And when your body doesn't like certain foods, it's going to create various different antibodies against them. And those are IgG, IgA, and IgM. And no need to get into all of that right now, but just know that it's pretty valuable information. And I'll show you an example of what this looks like. So the common things, though, that we look for are dairy, wheat, eggs, fruits, vegetables. Kind of this particular test tests for the most common foods that most of us are eating daily. So what you'll get back from this test is a personalized report showing which foods are triggering your immune response. It's color-coded and categorized, and it's done by your level of sensitivity to those particular foods. So whether it was a moderate sensitivity, a mild one, or something very extreme. All right. So I wanted to provide you some snapshots of what the test actually looks like. So page 1 will be a lot of information from the lab, your personal information. But what it's going to do is, I just took a snapshot, but it's going to give you a snapshot essentially of your total immunoglobulins in response to your blood. So when your blood was exposed, this is what happened with it. And you had, this particular person is in some severe immune response. So total IgA was here, total IgE was here. So it gives us that snapshot of, okay, there's definitely a war going on. Your body's responding, and this is kind of the picture. And this, now I can dial in and help you focus on what we're going to do. Snapshot number 2 is a page where it's going to list out all of your non-reactive foods and then all of your reactive foods. This is very helpful to have this side by side like this, because you can really see, okay, what foods am I absolutely not having? And then I will help you put together a nutrition plan, a meal plan to follow that works for you, that only includes the foods that you can eat. Because the most important thing that we're going to do in the beginning together of working together is we are identifying the foods and we're removing them so we can calm the inflammation going on inside your body, calm that war, and then heal and seal that gut lining and work on your mucosal barrier and make that solid again. So then that takes time. So the only way to do that is let's eliminate some of the offenders. And what we know, having this information from this test, is these are them. So for this particular person, quite a few foods here. And now we know this person cannot eat these foods. We're going to do that elimination for 12 weeks. And then we will then go through a reintroduction phase where we'll start to reintroduce foods. And there's a specific way to do that to phase them in. And that is something that we talk about inside of this program. It's very individualized. So again, on this snapshot, the test is showing you basically your levels for each food, whether it was an IgA reaction or an IgG reaction. So this is very helpful information because it allows me as the practitioner to know what area of the immune system is on fire and really upset. And that does help when we are working with a specific protocol to really dial in and heal and seal your gut lining. What I love about this test also is that it does give a summary of each individual food. So it'll, for example, rye, it's a gluten-containing grain. A lot of people, we've heard of the term gluten, but we may not actually know, okay, well, what is gluten? It's not just wheat. It's a lot of other grains contain gluten and also mimic the response that gluten would have on the immune system. So typically when we see gluten-containing grains come back on a food sensitivity report, we generally just avoid a lot of grains for the first few weeks just to really calm the inflammation in the body. But what I love about this is it'll tell you where it's commonly found. So rye can be found in breads, flours, baked goods, and crackers. It's also in whiskey and beer. And it's just really helpful. So some of the foods that come back you might not have heard of or are as common, and some of them are like a food chemical or something that you're not familiar with, but it'll let you know where it can be hiding, so you can be very aware of what you are eating when you're going through the elimination process. Again, here's another snapshot of another page of the report. So now it's going to, again, list everything out by category. So gluten-containing grains, gluten-free grains, your seeds, your dairy, and so forth. So what foods are tested on this particular report? This one I love because, again, it covers most of the general foods that we eat day to day, especially as Americans here. So it's going to cover your dairy category. It's going to cover fish, meats, shellfish, even your clams and scallops, legumes, spices, gluten-containing grains, gluten-free starches and grains, some of the miscellaneous things, coffee. I know most of us enjoy a coffee, and it's pretty important to know if that comes back because that's something that you may or may not be drinking every single day. And I have seen it come back many times. Nuts. So this is another one that is huge because you may be eating almonds all the time, and that might be a food sensitivity. It can pop up at any given time. So, you've eaten almonds your whole life, but now it's becoming an issue because leaky gut is an issue. So it's very enlightening. I love it because it's a direct answer to solving the problem and solving a huge piece of the puzzle, because food is one of those things that we have to eat to live. And so you have to eat multiple times a day to sustain your metabolic functions in life and all of these things. So if you're constantly eating foods that your immune system is triggering as inflammatory and basically as the enemy, and it's creating this war, it's just such an easy way to say, oh, okay, strawberries, I can't have those anymore. I'm going to pull those out of my diet. And if you're in that much pain and agony and you've been suffering for so many years, like I was when I found this information out, it was really easy for me to say, nope, I'm not having the strawberries. I'm going to pass on chocolate. I'm going to eliminate from my diet for an extended period of time because I want to feel better. And I can promise you, you'll feel better so much quicker than you even realize. It's amazing. So what happens next? So once we have your test results, this is kind of like the blueprint of what we then do. So it's a temporary elimination. Again, I want to remind you all that this is not a forever thing. So if you see that one of your favorite foods is coming back, just know that it is temporary, and the idea and the goal is that you can then add them back in once we do the gut healing work and we seal that mucosal lining and we heal the leaky gut situation. So it's a 90-day protocol, essentially. I really advise my clients to eliminate for a full 12 weeks and really just allow the body to calm down. Um, we do detoxification protocols and things like that while we are also doing the food sensitivity eliminations. And it really is helpful for allowing the body to reset. Um, so we're eliminating the foods, and then we're working on supporting your gut, healing and sealing that mucosal gut lining, eating foods that are going to help nourish the gut lining. There'll be maybe some supplements that I might suggest, one or two things that you can add in that will help speed that process up. And then if there's something more going on, then at that point, I would then say, let's get started with phase two and let's get a GI map going for you. And let's get like a snapshot of your microbiome. And if there's any other infections or parasites or a candida overgrowth or maybe some hidden H. pylori hanging out in there, it's the food sensitivities alone are not going to fix that problem. And that's why that's phase two in my program, because phase one is like we have to eliminate the inflammation. We have to allow the body to reset. And again, if you don't have that insight into what foods are causing some of the issue, it's really hard to fully support and heal the gut. So this is phased this way for a very specific reason, and it allows you to focus on one thing at a time and not get overwhelmed with all of the information that you can get from functional lab testing. So it's done in a very organized manner. So that's kind of step two in this program. And then step three would be slowly reintroducing each food in a very structured way. And that's different for everybody. So that's very specific for the person. But at the 12-week mark, depending on how the person is feeling and how they've progressed, which I can say most of the time, people are feeling amazing by then, and they feel so good that they almost don't want to even try to reintroduce the foods. But it is important to build that immunity back to the foods. So it is a very slow reintroduction, but it is something that I advise that you at least try. And then when you add a food back in and you do, you know, it could be 8 to 12 hours later, whatever the delayed immune response is. If you feel something or notice something coming back, then you know right away, okay, maybe strawberries are not ready to come back in yet. So I won't try those again. And then you wait a few days for the inflammation to calm, and then you try adding in another food. And that's really how that process works. Um, and and then from there, like I said, if you're feeling great, then you can kind of just hang out, or you can move into phase two where we dive deeper and we get into your microbiome and really dive deeper into more of that insight. But what you can expect to feel as you eliminate and reduce inflammation is number one for most people, I think, is the bloating and the fatigue. But energy will improve, your mood will improve, your skin will clear up. Even if you don't have specific skin issues, your skin tends to just really show what's going on internally with your health. It's like an external picture of, okay, there's something going on, or wow, that person, they're like glowing. They look so healthy. Like they just look like health because their skin shows that. If you're someone who's been really having a tough time with weight loss and you feel like no matter, you're in a calorie deficit, you're on specific macros, or you're eating just clean foods and you're really watching what you eat, or you've cut out sugar, or you've done these things and you're still not losing weight, that is a red flag that there's some gut issues going on. And especially if there's bloating and just midsection weight gain, it's very common when you have something like leaky gut going on. It is really hard to lose the weight when your body is so focused on trying to like win a war that's happening every day. You will see improved digestion, improved joint pain and stiffness, improved asthma. If asthma is an issue, that's not always a guarantee. Again, these are things that commonly people struggle with and then end up feeling better. Less brain fog, just more focus, able to like find your words again. Less anxiety, which is another one. Better sleep. Your body essentially resets when you go to sleep every single night. And so if there's disruption going on inside of your gut, it's really hard to get a good night's sleep. If you're tossing and turning and you're just uncomfortable and for whatever reason you can't sleep, I mean, that could be a lot of things going on, but a lot of times it is something going on with the gut. And when we can improve the gut, you definitely will get better sleep, deeper sleep. And for any of you who do have a diagnosed autoimmune condition, there have been plenty of cases that I've specifically seen where someone's autoimmune condition is almost reversed, or they they just feel incredibly better. And again, there's no guarantees, but again, these are just some of the things that are common symptoms that do improve once we go through this process. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you for watching this video. If you are ready to get started, please reach out. You can find me at thefunctionalwellnesshub.com, or you can find me on Instagram or Facebook. You can go to the Functional Wellness Hub, and that's where you can find me. Or you can also find me. I'm Kara Horton. You can search me as well. But there are intake forms that you can do to get started, just so I have your information, and then I will get back to you and we will set up a call, a free consultation to discuss more specifically what's going on with you and if this is the right step for you at this time. But if you are feeling like you are bloated, you are uncomfortable, you have these chronic symptoms that are just, they're not going away no matter what you do, I think really this is really well worth your while to explore. And this is your first step towards resolving your chronic symptoms and complaints. We need to discover what foods are causing the disruption and causing your immune system to be fired up. And we need to eliminate them and we need to heal. And that's what I'm all about. And then we will see you soon.